Okay, so I had this beautiful picture to go up with this. I really did. It's the Wi-Fi symbol with the little bars going off. And so I'm going to have to work around that. But that is a truly modern representation of connection. And I seem to spend a large part of my life looking at it on my iPad or on my phone. But in the reading, we heard how the 12 connected with people, how they empowered them to step up and take responsibility. And in doing so, they were freed up to concentrate on their ministry, which, in turn, led to the word spreading and the number of disciples growing rapidly. The power of networking, of connecting with people around you. The 12 were quite lucky, really. After all, they knew Jesus, they travelled with him, ate with him, had many interesting chats with him, sat around little fires, stuffing fish. And I imagine that as they moved around with him, they learned how to communicate with people better. They learned how to connect with those that they came across. And I would guess, although obviously I can't be certain, I wasn't there, that this helped them to connect with God more intimately and easily. Perhaps. And I say perhaps because I, and I'm sure I'm not alone here, have found it quite difficult at times to connect fully with God. A bit like Wi-Fi. Sometimes it seems like God is coming through strong, and other times the signal seems to drop off and fade off into the distance. What causes that? And I don't mean Wi-Fi dropping off. We all know causes of that, But what causes that connection to God to fail? Some people say that lifestyles separate us from God. Some churches will tell you that not being a member of theirs will do it. Others will say that the way you behave, the choices you make, and even the way you dress can separate you from God. Do I believe any of that? No. However, I have been rereading Leviticus lately. We all love Leviticus, don't we? With all its negativity, all of its do this and you are unclean. Wear this, don't wear that. Eat this, don't eat that. And more, I've come to believe that this was a construct of man, based on the more rigid rules of their societies at the time. Do I believe that God wants us to follow Leviticus? To obey the rules contained in it? You only need to look at my clothes and have witnessed my diet, which I think pretty much everyone here has, to know that I don't believe that. No, that I do not follow Leviticus whatsoever. So, however, when looking at it, I remembered about Acts 11:7. Now, I didn't remember where it was. I looked it up in a search and found that it was actually Acts 11:7. And in that, it seems that Leviticus is actually repudiated by God. Because God sends a vision to Peter and he says, wake up, kill and eat these animals. The fact is, the animals he was being told to kill and eat, according to his core beliefs, everything he'd known since he was grown up, were unclean. So to me it seems clear that God did not want the strictures in Leviticus to be adhered to. Otherwise we would have to believe that God then went on to change his or her mind and contradict him or herself. Which seems a bit unlikely to me. So does that mean that the Bible is suspect? And this is always a thing that comes up with people when you point out things in the Bible that you don't necessarily think are correct. No, of course it's not. But we need to remember that it was written at a very different time and by men. Lots of different men. It was put together by a committee. And let's face it, as humans, we are all fallible. We all put something of ourselves into things we write. Our own slant, our own opinions, our own feelings. Leviticus itself contains material that was written over an extended period of time. It wasn't all written at once. It was written by a number of different people. It came from different sources. So, to my mind, it's bound to contain some of those people's moral beliefs, their thoughts and their own personal views. But to me, the final say comes, as ever, from Jesus. He accepted everyone. He judged no one and preached love, not condemnation. He connected with everyone he met from all walks of life, from all backgrounds. And I certainly don't ever remember him saying that anyone that eats a prawn will be separated from God. So how can we become separated from God? What can sever that connection? The answer is quite simple, really. Us. No one can cut us off from God. No one can tell us that God doesn't love us. No church, no group, nothing and no one has that power. The only thing that can cut us off from God is ourselves. The only way to be separated from God is if we separate ourselves, if we put up a wall between ourselves and God. But God is still there. We often sing in many of the songs that we do about waiting for God. But to my mind, and that seems to say that the onus is on God to connect with us. But to my mind, I believe that it is God that spends time waiting for us. Always there, always willing to listen, always loving, just waiting for us to arrive at the point where we are willing to give of ourselves. To reach out and accept God into our lives. To carry on with the analogy of Wi-Fi, log on or log in. And I just want to share something with you. This happened a while ago now. But I have been through that very process. That exact same process. A while back, following a slight faux pas of a sermon of mine, I became quite disengaged with the church. I felt cut off. And it felt like my life was muted. Like everything had turned to kind of black and white. Or even maybe shades of grey. It was weird, and I had no idea what was going on. Then one day I was walking up by the Quarry Fields near our house where I normally walk Jack. And I actually got a bit annoyed. So I stood there and I kind of swore at God and said, what am I supposed to do? I'll leave out the bits in between. And suddenly it was like a wall came down. And all sorts of feelings rushed in. It is actually quite difficult to explain because it was really overwhelming at the time. And so I don't remember a great deal of it, other than I rushed home, burst into the house and was burbling at my wife, SJ, saying, it's back, my connection is back. That feeling of God's presence in my life and the certainty I had of it was back. It was incredible. It was actually quite a relief for a start. But also it was a defining moment in my relationship with God. The realisation that no matter what I do, how I behave, how far I run, God will always be there waiting for me to reconnect. Which is good news. It really is good news to know that. But we don't only connect with God. Every day we connect with the people around us. And if we are truly doing things differently, as we have said that we want to do, then we need to look for more ways to connect. Different ways to reach out to people around us. I mean, we connect in so many different ways every day. For instance, my favourite one is standing in the queue at the post office, particularly in Newhaven. And you get there and there's someone right at the front of the queue, at the counter, counting out pennies. They don't want to use Coinstar because it takes a percentage, So they're there counting out coppers. And you kind of look around and you will see someone in the queue is bound to stand there and go. And someone else will go. And put their hands to their head, roll their eyes, whatever. And when you look, there's an instant connection, isn't there? Because it's a shared experience. So you smile or whatever, and then someone will giggle, and it turns out to be not so bad. fact is that you connect with that person over a shared experience, those other people in the queue. These moments are often a chance for conversation, even just in passing. Even if it's just, oh my God, how many coppers? It starts a conversation. And then who knows? Just maybe, sometime later, you'll see them in the street, on the bus, in Sainsbury's. And you may say, hello. And they may ask you what you're doing at the weekend. Which is, we've got a couple of bank holidays, and that's the first thing everyone asks you when it comes up to a bank holiday. What are you doing for the weekend? So there is your opportunity to tell them about the church, about going to church. And then, obviously, you have to answer the inevitable questions. Oh, what church is that? MCC? Really? Oh, what's that about? And it starts a conversation. And these little things, seemingly insignificant moments in your life, can lead to a connection, not only to you, but through you to God. Now, to me, that sounds like true evangelism. Does it not? You're sharing a message, you're talking to people, and they're actually coming into a relationship with God through queuing up in a post office over coppers. That's quite incredible. But speaking of evangelism, we have often talked about it, about spreading the word. And we tend to hear of these big evangelists, or even the little ones that stand down by the seafront, they wave a Bible in the air and they shout all sorts of things at you. So is that what you need to do? Do you need to go out, find a nice big square full of people shopping, grab a Bible, go up to people and go, have you heard the word of God? No. I don't advise it, it's quite annoying. But does it really need you to do anything special? Out of the ordinary? I don't think so. I believe we just need to be who God created us to be ourselves, to be honest. And when asked, to not shy away from questions about church, about faith, even about God. I think we should just answer them truthfully. Tell people of your beliefs. Share your doubts as well as your certainties. Share your experiences, and you may well be surprised at the results. After all, we've already said that we can connect over shared experience. So what sort of connections are you going to make if you share your experiences with others? So are we really connecting? You can see a theme here, since today we are talking about connection. Can we honestly say that we are being ourselves? Are we being the people God created us to be? Or are we listening to those negative voices? Are we allowing those people who claim to know God's mind to sow seeds of doubt in ours? We are always told, when you come up the front here, not to make unequivocal statements. Not to say something is fact, but to always say, I think, I feel, I believe. And you would have noticed that through my talk this evening, that I would always say, I think, I feel, I believe. But I'm going to make a truly unequivocal statement. And I'm going to nail my colours to the mast on this one. And I'm going to say, God made and loves each and every one of us just as we are. That is my unequivocal statement. So I believe, think, or feel that to connect to God fully and to truly connect to those around us, all we really need to be is our true selves. Thank you.